What's up, YouTubers? It's Friday. Let me think. It's the 26th of March. We're almost into April. Not much news here. I've just been studying Spanish. Going out. There's not much. Well, we're not really locked down anymore, but I have for, I don't know why. I just haven't felt like traveling. Probably after the holidays. That's going to be the first, second, or third of April. Down here, they have a lot of, it's the Easter holidays, which are a big deal for here. I mean, in the United States, it's kind of big, I guess. But everything's going to be basically shut down for that. As I already said in another video, the border from Guatemala to Mexico is closed. And it's primarily to stop immigration, although they're saying it's related to coronavirus. Not too many people believe that, and as more and more information and news comes out, no one really believes that anymore. I don't even think anyone in the U.S. really believes that, but I really don't know. It seems like a lot of people in the United States are, I want to say delusional, dysfunctional, but I'm not saying everyone is, but I am kind of surprised at what people believe. But anyways, this last week, the airport was closed a couple of days for, well, I heard it was closed for a couple of days for the volcano that's been shooting out ash in the atmosphere. Then other people said they just delayed the flights. So, again, it's hard to get real information down. Well, it's just hard in general to get information around the world now because I personally don't like to believe in anything until I actually experience it or have friends experience it. So, anyways, that's just me. I haven't had much to talk about. Most of the stuff I see in the news seems pretty depressing, pretty pessimistic. Like I said in a previous video, Elizabeth Warren, I'm not sure she's going to get her wealth taxes, but in the past I would say no, but now I say it's a maybe. And they would start for people over 50 million, and it'd be a 1 to 2% tax depending on how much money you had. If you're a billionaire, it'd be more. When I say 50 million, she has it in the bill that like if you leave because of tax, or if you like renounce your citizenship, they want to tax you 40% on top of that. Those kinds of things aren't necessarily wealth tax, but I could see that going to effect, even if there's not a specific wealth tax per se. But if you renounce after a certain point, they may say, well, they'll just figure if you have a certain net worth, you're doing it for tax reasons, so they'll just tax you, I don't know, 40. What they're saying now is 40%. So what'll happen is more and more wealthy people, they won't renounce. They'll just move the money offshore before they're going to renounce. So then they'll be, they'll just manage all this with their lawyers and accountants, which will just mean there's a lot less capital in the U.S., which means a lot less intelligent and smart people creating wealth, which means there'll be a lot less jobs and a lot less opportunities. Of course, there'll be opportunities for people still there, but one of the reasons I'm saying all this is because you're really starting to see more and more people considering kind of leaving the United States. And I can't say where they all go, but I saw a chart where Canadians go, and one of the biggest places they go is Mexico. And of course, the U.S. too, but you're seeing the Canadians come down into Mexico and Guatemala. I personally kind of come across more and more Mormons and Mennonites. I just noticed it. I'm not sure why that is, but the fact that you have people from all walks of life checking out their opportunities in Central and South America is very fascinating. It appears to me from everything I've been seeing in the news media, Asian countries will be fully open at the end of 2021. I would guess 6 months from now, they'll start opening up. Now, some acquaintances of mine think it's going to happen sooner. I don't know, but from what I've been hearing, this is my suspicion and just my feeling, intuition. It's my intuition that it's going to be another 9 months before most of Asia is open. What I mean by open is, I mean you can go there. There's no quarantine. No having to, like if you go to Thailand, if you go to Cambodia and Thailand, you got to pay $1,500 to $2,000 to quarantine. They were changing that all the time, so don't quote me on that. Sometimes they're saying it's 2 weeks, other times saying a week. And then there's a lot of tourists saying, well, if I have to quarantine 2 weeks and the other guy after me only 7 days, I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to waste 2 weeks of my life, a couple $1,000s. And these are wealthier people I'm aware of. They can quite easily afford it, but they're just said they're not going to go until this is all over. I actually agree with them. I understand why they say that. Until these things get so, like we all know, it's open, you don't have to pay any special tax, you don't have to pay any special insurance. And then Costa Rica has been making noise. Well, you still have to have insurance to go to Costa Rica, and it used to be $100 a month. Now they crushed that down to like $75, $100 for 3 months. Yeah, I agree it's a lot less, but still a lot of people are going, so you're going to keep this insurance thing up for as long as you can, maybe forever. So now to go to countries as a tourist or as an expat, you may have to start paying taxes in your home country, taxes when you leave your home country if you renounce, and then you're going to have to pay taxes to go to the new countries. For like Ecuador is a good example. Before, expats didn't have to pay the 17% healthcare tax. That's just my name for it. I don't know what the proper name. Now if you're a resident, you got to pay that 17%. Well, Costa Rica's doing that now too. But now they're doing it with tourists even. So like even if you're a tourist, you got to pay tax into the healthcare system. Now they're saying it's because of COVID, but I have a suspicion it's because their healthcare system is bankrupt, like most Western healthcare systems are basically bankrupt. I would say the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom. Maybe not technically bankrupt, but for all practical purposes, you have to wait in line to get your healthcare if it's free. If you have private insurance, then of course you don't have to wait in line as much. And I'm not claiming private healthcare works all that well in the U.S. It doesn't. I'm just making that observation. But with all these craziness and all these things going on right now, I just know a lot of people that they're just going to refuse to travel until this is all over. This one acquaintance, he's an acquaintance of mine. He normally travels to Asian countries, Japan, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam. He's pretty much pissed off. He's not going to go back. He'll just keep going to Mexico, he said. And he believes next year everything will be fully open. You won't have to quarantine. I think he's probably right. I mean, no one really can know. I can't know. I don't claim to know, but to me it seems like governments are irrationally going to drag this out, even though it hurts their citizens and their economies. They're going to be fully irrational about this and basically destroy large sectors of their economy. For what reason, I have no idea. I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, although I like following conspiracy theories, but I don't know if there's any conspiracy. I just think it's a lot of stupidity and incompetence. I think a lot of people who run countries nowadays are just incompetent and corrupt. And with those two things, you get a lot of policies that don't make any sense. And in some cases hurt their own self-interest. But they don't care because they can just get the government to bail themselves out of the stupid shit they do. So they don't really care. Meanwhile, they're bankrupting small sectors of the U.S. economy, large sectors of other economies. I say small because I don't really know. I don't even think we're really going to see the real numbers come out for another 5 or 10 years on how bad this is all going to be for small business. I just know in the U.S., people think there's like a huge percentage of small businesses that are going out of business, are out of business and not coming back. And that a really teeny tiny percentage of those people who went out of business, they may come back with different businesses. But because they lost everything and because of their age and just a lot of other factors, they're probably not coming back doing anything. And while this is all happening, government's creating more and more dependency on government aid programs, incentivizing people not to try to start a business or start over. And it's just really frustrating, but that's what I've been seeing like all this week. I'd like to kind of pull out a lot of news stories, but I'm not going to because, number one, I can't remember them all, but there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on that leads you to believe that they're going to drag this coronavirus thing out, at least in Asia, for another 6 months to a year. And that's even with the vaccines. In fact, if you read the news stories are already normalizing for citizens that you're not going to be able to get your vaccine like you thought. You're going to have to wait longer, so we're going to have to keep the economy closed longer, so you can't travel. These stories are already running right now. I mainly pay attention to what's going on in the United States and Canada and Europe. And then we saw in Germany, Angela Merkel backtracked on her locking the country down for Easter. But what she's still going to do is have the previous lockdown, whatever those minimal lockdowns were, that's going to stay. It's kind of like happening in France because people are just getting really upset. And in the Netherlands and Germany, they're protesting quite a bit. Now, again, I don't follow all of Europe, but we're just seeing a lot of craziness right now where politicians are overstepping, or they're just overstepping their bounds. But in general, I would say most people have agreed to all these lockdowns. They're not really protesting. It's sad to see, but it just is what it is. So I've been just doing more research on Latin America, like different places a person can live. I'm more excited about southern Brazil. I always talk about Paraguay. Paraguay, it's mainly because for Americans and Canadians and other people like from Asia, it's one of the easiest places where you can just deposit $5,000, pay some legal fees, and get your police. For Americans, it's the FBI background check. But you get your police check, and I think that you also need a birth certificate, if I remember right. But you just have to pay a lawyer and $5,000 deposit into a bank, and you get a place to live and work. You get a little card. It's equivalent to the DPI here. You can cross into the other Mercosur countries, and also you can work on that. My understanding is you can work on that. So for people who just want to get a job or start a business or something, just deposit $5,000. Get your health certificate. I can't remember. I think you do need a health thing, but you get that when you're in Paraguay, when you apply. That's one of the big reasons I mentioned that country. It's not necessarily because I think it's necessarily the best place. It's just, for a lot of people, it's going to be the only place that they can fly into real quick, get something set up as a legal residency, fly out if they want to, keep it in their back pocket, so to speak, as a back pocket residency, and do whatever the hell they want. From more and more research that I'm doing, I'm seeing more and more kind of positive things on southern Brazil. But even there, things are kind of chaotic. I mean, who knows what the next political administration is going to bring. But then when you see what's going on in Ecuador and Bolivia and Peru, it's not good there either. So I always just come back to, because of the way the immigration patterns worked in the past for Brazil, you have a lot of Europeans in southern Brazil, and you have different situations in different parts of the Brazil, in the different states or the provinces of Brazil. So you have a lot of choices where you can live, which means you have a lot of variance in cost of living and business opportunities and things like that. The only downside really is you're going to have to learn Portuguese, which for some people like me, I'm not an easy language learner. But having said that, if you can earn an income online, you can just start earning income online and live there. The other thing about Brazil is, I'm not saying it's easy or hard, it's just there's various kind of loopholes into Brazil. By that I just mean having a love child or something like that. You don't even have to get married. You can just have a child with someone, and you can qualify for the permanent residency. And then after my understanding is before the 2 years is up, you can apply for your passport. That's not legal advice. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying that's what some people do. Anyways, I don't have much else to say this evening. To me, the news seems to be getting more pessimistic in Europe and North America. And my views are getting more hardened. Like, if you've ever seen those videos, there's these genre of videos that says, like, why I left America, or why I left the United States and I'm not coming back, or why I left the United States but I go there only to visit family, stuff like that. I'm more in the category as, I just like to go back there to visit my relatives, but it's getting to be less and less. And it's not because of anything like I hate or dislike the United States. I don't. I like the United States. I think it's a great place. I personally don't even think Canada's that bad. A lot of people are going to argue and tell me how bad Canada is. I still think Canada is a great place, but the cost of living in the United States and Canada is so high now. Like an acquaintance of mine just said in one of his recent videos, he had a mortgage for under $2,000 in California, way, way back in the Stone Age. He can live in a lot of Latin American Asia for like less than his mortgage. And he was just saying, for the price of a mortgage for different places in the US or Canada, you can live on that amount of money in large parts of the world, which I agree with. And when you think about that, you realize how much the money supply has been inflated in Europe and North America, that it's just so much more affordable to live in other countries. And it's kind of like you have more of an adventure living in other countries. And you get to the point where you don't really miss being on the treadmill in the U.S. You don't really miss kind of like the cultural things where you always have to borrow money to buy a car, borrow money to get a nicer house, borrow money to get a nicer car. I like being off that treadmill because it doesn't make me happy. This other guy who made this, he had a similar outlook. Like in the U.S., we tend to think of having more and more possessions, borrowing money for our possessions, not saving money for our retirement, not saving money for a rainy day. Whereas in other parts of the world, he was commenting on Latin America. Right now, he's in Latin America, but people live a slower-paced life. They save a few bucks, and the cost of living is just so much lower. Like he was just pointing out, you can go to these street vendors or small restaurants, and like a street vendor, something you can get something for $2 or $3 or less. You can go to a restaurant and get something for $5 or $6. You just can't really do that anymore in North America. And for him, he's like me in that he thinks, like you go to a lot of restaurants in North America, you can go to a chain restaurant, one in Arizona, one in New York, one in Florida. They all taste the same. Everything's so homogenized now. That's another thing too I agree with him on. That I like traveling around different places. I like seeing different stuff. I like going to different regions and getting different food. That's what I like. I like the fact that it's affordable. I like the fact that you don't necessarily need to earn a lot of money to do these things. And what I don't like about the United States is you tend to have to borrow a lot of money to buy a nice car or to live in a nice neighborhood. I'm not talking about an elite neighborhood. I'm just talking about a nice middle-class neighborhood. It costs you $2, $3, $4, $5 when you start thinking about it. I mean, you get a house, get a car, get all the accoutrements that you're going to need for that place. And it's just not for me. It's not my lifestyle. For other people, I'm glad they can have that opportunity. Anyways, I didn't mean to get off on this, but the opportunity of having a low cost of living, kind of a laid-back lifestyle in the United States just isn't there anymore. And to get that kind of a lifestyle, you might have to consider living in another country. And this acquaintance of mine, he travels the world more, and he was just saying he doesn't really plan on going back. He's about 10 years older than me, and he just said he just likes to see his relatives, and it's getting to be less and less. And I've thought about that too. I'm kind of getting to that point where I don't enjoy going back. Like he said, you go to the airport, it's a couple $100 to rent a car. It can be $100 or $150 to get a nice hotel. Even if you're staying with like he said, with family, you're out in the suburbs. You usually need to rent a car. If you don't rent a car, then you have to take local transportation. Busing transportation doesn't go very far. It takes a long time to get there. It takes a lot of time to get from point A to point B. And when you're in these other countries, you can spend $250 to $5 for a taxi or an Uber. In the United States, an Uber can be $25 to $50 to $100. Back in the day, I'm talking more than 20 years ago, getting a taxi in Seattle from where I used to live to the airport was like $150 to $200. That was over 20 years ago. Getting a taxi from Phoenix to where my folks had a house, or still have a house, was $50, $60, $70. Not bad. That's why I thought it was great there. But again, these prices just keep going up. And like he was making the point that just having a car is expensive when you want to go back to visit if you rent one, and just the cost of just doing these things, it's just really expensive. And when you get back there, you see kind of the rat race everyone's doing. It's just not a fun experience, except for the part where you're visiting and seeing your family. But anyhow, I just kind of resonated with his video, and I've been thinking about that. And that's where I'm at. Everyone's kind of at a different point in their journey in life. So just putting that out there. Anyways, I don't have much else to say. Normally I like to make more videos about certain topics, but right now I just see a lot of pessimism right now in North America and Europe. And when this all started last year, I thought it would blow over fast, but now I'm seeing I was really wrong. This stuff, the actual thing may blow over, the C word, but people have been normalized to accept all this, so the politicians and bureaucrats are going to find ways. Maybe they're going to have a new disease or a new thing to keep people locked down, but it's just going to keep dragging on and dragging on. It's just going to... The economy wasn't great to begin with. This is going to keep winding down the economy. Again, this is just me, my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, especially on the economy. I would like a thriving economy because it gives me more opportunities to work online or do stuff online. Everyone gets more opportunities, but I just see the way things are going that the American people, a lot of European people seem to want to tolerate all this and just accept it. And that's not good. I'd rather live in a country that's less developed where people have more freedoms and liberties to do whatever the hell they want. So anyways, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.